Just so you feel good about your purchase, welcome to Quick Wins. Alright, so in this module, all I'm going to do is just relay some of the valuable information that I'll give you in later portions of this course. I'm going to do this for two different reasons. The first reason being, I want to give you guys some quick wins in the beginning. Some simple and effective tips that you can implement today and notice some sorts of quick results from as you move throughout this course. And then reason number two being is that I believe foundations is the most important portion of this course. I want you guys to watch it. So by me scratching your itch for some quick content tips, I am expecting that this buys your attention for the next upcoming modules that will lay down your content foundation. So essentially, I will give you what you want now in this module, and then you pay attention to what you need afterwards. Does that sound like a deal? Great, then I'm gonna shut the fuck up and then start rapid firing some quick wins at you. There are 5 quick wins that I'm going to give you today that revolve around your content scripting, your recording, and your videos editing. And these 5 quick wins consist of: number 1, negativity always wins; number 2, the hook expansion; number 3, speaking in U form; number 4, and second to last, you have recording like a G; and then lastly, we go over optimized captions. Now we're going to go through all of these in this video, so pull out a pen and paper and be prepared to take notes, because I shoved as much value as I possibly could into this 20-minute module to make sure that you kick off your content creation journey right. At the end of this module, I'll be giving you guys some homework to complete after the module to use what you've learned, because it's one thing to just take notes and feel good about yourself because you just invested into your journey, but it's another thing if you implement on day 1, and by the end of this, we're going to do both. So without further ado, let's begin with number 1. Negativity always wins. On social media, negativity more often than not wins. For example, imagine I called someone's grandma a fat bitch. They would be 9 out of 10 mad at that statement. But if I called their grandma a sweet old lady, they might only be around 6 out of 10 happy. Which leads to the point that I would invoke more attention and more emotion out of the viewer by being negative towards someone's grandma rather than being positive. Now, of course, we do want to have a platform, and by no means am I saying that you should be a dickhead within your content. But what I am saying is that you should be using negativity in your content that is indirect to the viewer. And by indirect to the viewer, I mean don't just shit on the viewer themselves or their grandma. Notice how I said somebody's grandma whenever I gave the example, and not your grandma. You always want to be negative to the mistake that the viewer is making and never the viewer themselves. Here's an example of a positive versus a negative hook that we can see what I mean. Alright, so for this example, let's say you are a fitness coach that's creating a video upon how to get bigger legs. A positive hook might look something like: these 3 leg workouts are so much better than squats, and the last one is the best. It was okay. Let's see what a negative hook looks like. Squats just fucking suck whenever it comes to actually growing your legs. Instead of wasting your time in the gym, here are 3 alternative leg workouts that'll actually get you some tree trunks for legs. Now, which one do you believe that you would watch for longer, the positive or the negative? Hopefully you got the point, and if you didn't, too fucking bad. We're gonna move on anyways. Which brings us to number 2, broadening out your content. This is something that I'd argue is probably one of the best ways to increase the engagement to any post. And that is the idea of swapping what is called a niche hook that you would use to target your ideal clients or viewers. Take that niche hook and try to make it as broad as possible. And then in your video, filter your audience by niching down throughout your video. What do I mean by this? Well, I can show you better than I can tell you. We're gonna take a look at a live example from one of my clients, Brian Mark. For context, Brian Mark is an 8-figure entrepreneur who helps online personal trainers hit their first 10K month. So with that in mind, this video is made for fitness coaches. Now in his video, I want you to focus on 2 things. Number 1, how broad his hook is. And number 2, how he filters down to his niche of helping online personal trainers throughout the video. Let's take a look.
When someone says you're too expensive, first, don't try to justify the price. Shut the f up and then ask them, expensive compared to what? They'll probably say something like, well, like, I know somebody else that's cheaper. Here's how you respond to that. So Matt, let me ask you, if you were to take your family out for a nice dinner, would you take them to a steakhouse or would you take them to McDonald's? Well, probably a steakhouse. Exactly. So if you want to look like you have a McDonald's personal trainer, I can refer you to somebody cheaper. But if you want a program with guaranteed results and elite level service, this is the program for you. So what do you say? Do you want a McDouble or do you want the best? Boom, you're welcome. Go make some money.
Okay, so before I told Brian to broaden out his hook, his original hook was, if someone says that your fitness program is too expensive, here's what you say. Now that hook was only really relevant to fitness coaches. So what we did is we broadened out his hook to what you just saw in that video. Now this broadened out version of the hook isn't only relevant to fitness coaches anymore. This hook is literally relevant to anyone who sells anything. But I want you to notice the way on how he gave the value and the solution to the viewer. Brian tailored the value in a way that made it for his target audience of fitness coaches. Listen.
Here's how you respond to that. So Matt, let me ask you, if you were to take your family out for a nice dinner, would you take them to a steakhouse or would you take them to McDonald's? Well, Probably a steakhouse. Exactly. So if you want to look like you have a McDonald's personal trainer, I can refer you to somebody cheaper. But if you want a program with guaranteed results and elite level service, this is the program for you. So what do you say? Do you want a McDouble or do you want the best? Boom, you're welcome. Go make some money.
So instead of Brian making a video that only fitness coaches would watch, Brian broadened out his hook to make the video relevant to pretty much everyone, and then niched down his value throughout this video to target his ideal client. And because he did it this way, this video brought to Brian a combination of 4 million views and 116,000 likes. So broaden out your hook and niche down throughout your video. Now, of course, some of you might be thinking, I really only care about target clients watching my videos. I only want to make money. That is an absolute way of thinking, and I'll tell you why. If your hook is niche down, it's by definition going to relate to less people. So let's say you made a video targeting your target audience, and that video got 5,000 views. And if we're being generous, let's say out of those 5,000 views, 1,000 of them were your ideal clients. That means 20% of your viewers were potential customers. Now, on the contrary, let's say you made an extremely broad hook that can relate to pretty much everyone. And let's say you posted that broader hook and it reached 200,000 people, but only 5,000 of those people were your ideal clients. That means only 5% of your viewers were potential customers. Now, the obvious explanation on why the broader hook method would be better is because the amount of ideal clients would increase by 500%. And of course, that's a really big reason on why broader is better, but I like to take it a step further. A phrase that you hear me say a lot throughout this course is something that I took from Hormozi, and that is 99% of people will never buy from you, but those are the ones who will create or destroy your reputation. So even if 99% of people never buy, if done right, those people will lead you to making more money in the long run. So when you broaden out your hook to get more attention, that increase in reach does two things. Number one, it'll lead to a larger amount of consumption, meaning if that consumption was positive, then your reputation strengthens. And that strong reputation by association will carry over to your product. And then number two, it'll increase the amount of ideal clients that you are able to reach over time. So if an individual watching your content is not qualified for your product, but they do become a fan of your content, then their consumption will lead to more consumption. Because the more people that watch and engage with your content, the more the Instagram or whatever platform you're posting on will distribute it to new people. And a hefty percentage of those new people consist of your ideal clients, aka more people will buy your shit. Plus, by niching down throughout your video, you're still getting more attention while still letting your ideal audience know that your video was made for them. This is a strategy that I call hook expansion, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in Scripting 101. And that is the last quick win around your hook. So now let's talk about a quick win whenever it comes to scripting the rest of your video. And that brings us to number 3, speaking in you format. There is one word that is easily the most important word in the English language whenever it comes to scripting out your videos. And that one word is you. And this is for obvious reasons. For example, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to attend a public event with Elon Musk as the speaker, or would you prefer a one-on-one meeting with Elon Musk himself? Obviously, it would be the one-on-one meeting, and that is because people love personalization. So the closest that we can get to that within our content, or at least the closest that we can create the perception of that, the better. And there's only two ways that you can create this perception in your content with you format. And that is, you can either replace the plural or give the ownership. Now, the first way is the most common way that you can utilize you format within your content, and that is to replace any plural language within your script with the word you. Now, this is replacing words like y'all for you guys for you, everyone for you, and then you can even start replacing phrases. So for example, instead of saying people might often find, you would replace that with you might find. And then once you can start doing that, you can start doing it to entire sentences. So for example, if you were to speak in plural language, you might say, anyone who follows this diet plan, they will lose weight. Versus if you speak in you format, if you follow this diet plan, you will lose weight. Basically, pretty much anything that is plural, you replace it with the word you. And that is the first way that you can add you format to your content. The second way you can utilize you format within your script is to give the ownership. And this is something that I bet a lot of you guys are not doing. Let me ask you, which one of these two do you believe would be better at getting your attention? Do you like the dog or do you like your dog? Of course, it's going to be your dog because I mentioned something that you own. Even though do you like the dog had the word you in it, it still was not truly personalized because it had nothing to do with you outside of me asking you a question. But whenever I added ownership into the scenario by saying your dog, all of a sudden it becomes much more personal, and that is the power of giving the ownership. Here's some more practical examples. When you get near to the end of the sales call and when you finish the presentation, then give them the price. You would swap that with, when you get near the end of your sales call and you finish your presentation, then give them your price. Do you see the difference? Here's another example. It is so easy to see the benefits of creating content if it's made into a habit and stuck to for 6 months. Versus, you will easily see the benefits of creating content if you make it a part of your routine and you stick to it for 6 months. That's how you utilize replacing the plural and giving the ownership within your content. Using your format within your scripts and in your content is a very small change, but I promise you that it makes the world of a difference. So once you finally get done writing your script, read it over and actively scan for all the opportunities to either replace the plural or give the ownership. And once you've done your format scan, then you're ready for number 4 on this list, record like a G. Now there is a lot that goes into recording as perfect as me. I mean, the handsome face, the deep voice, I don't think it gets much better than this. Everyone always wants the best ideas, we all want the coolest edits, and we spend hours making our script perfect to make sure that we always say the right thing. But one thing that I think that we all overlook is how us as the creators present all of these cool things. Because it doesn't matter how good your video idea was if your recording skills suck. And it doesn't matter how cool your video edits are if your recording skills suck. And it doesn't matter how good your script was if your recording skills suck. However, if your recording skills are just out of this world, then you can still be missing all 3 of those things and still have a good performing video. Now in Recording 101, I go extremely deep on this, but in Quick Wins, we're going to focus on 4 of the biggest things that you need to avoid whenever it comes to recording your videos. If you can avoid just these 4 things, then I promise you that you will be ahead of 90% of people out there. So first, let's start with what to wear on film day, or more importantly, what not to wear. You never want to wear 2 kinds of shirts. You never want to wear a white shirt, and you never want to wear a shirt with big text on it. When you wear a white shirt, all that does is make the captions blend in with your shirt, making the captions harder to read. And to fix that, you or the editor has to raise the stroke of your captions, and at the end of it, your captions will either be A, unreadable, or B, look like shit. And then if you're wearing a shirt with big words on it, then your captions will overlap the shirt's text and just become a distraction in your video, making it even harder to pay attention. So when you're picking out your next recording outfit, attempt to make sure that it's simple and clean, and make sure that you do not wear a white shirt or a shirt with big text on it. And just to be clear, this is a bad example. However, we're recording a course module, so fuck it. But typically, if you look at my Instagram, I wear a simple, typically black shirt that has no text on it. Anyways, once you have a clean and simple shirt on, then it's time to actually start recording, which brings us to number 2, reading your script line by line. Every single one of you should be using a script whenever you're recording. You are not an exception and you are not special. 99% of the time, I think we can all agree that excellence is formed in preparation. So you're most likely not just gonna blurt out a video that has a captivating hook, 10 out of 10 value with perfect narration. Even the best of the best whenever it comes to off-the-cuff content, guys like Hormozy will still prepare a script whenever he needs to perform at his best. Do you think his book launch wasn't prepared word for word? Record with the fucking script, and if you don't want to use a script, it's not because you're just so good at speaking. It is either because you were so bad at writing, or you don't see the value in sitting down for an hour to make a good video. Either way, writing is a skill that you can learn and that I'm going to teach you in this course. And if you don't see the value of spending 30 minutes to an hour to just sit down and make a good video, just give it 3 modules and that will change. But back to the point, once you have your prepared script in front of you, the worst thing that you can do is try to read the entire thing or even read it in big chunks. You're going to be out of breath, you're going to start mispronouncing things, and you're going to forget half the words. So when you're using a script, always separate your script line by line and then read it off as such. Look at your phone, your laptop, teleprompter, or whatever you might have the script on, read one line out loud and then say it to the camera. Then re-say it and re-say it over and over and over again until it comes out exactly how you want it. And do not let yourself get discouraged while you do this. It takes everyone longer than anyone thinks to read a script exactly how they like it. So don't feel frustrated whenever you have to spend 10 or 15 minutes recording a 40-second video. That is just a part of the process. So read your script line by line. And when you do this, you want to avoid the common mistake number 3, forgetting hand placement. The whole purpose of using a script is to make it not look like you're using a script. So if you read line by line and every single time you switch lines and you forget where you put your hands, it makes it extremely clear that you're going off a script, which makes your video look a little bit unnatural. And when you finish and move on to the next line, always try to remember where your hands ended and start from that position every single time you begin a new line. This way, it doesn't seem so obvious that you are using a script. And speaking of natural, that brings us to our last recording common mistake, blinking. I get it. It is not natural to have a huge light blaring into your eyes, and sometimes your eyes might get a little bit dry. But please do not be that guy that uncontrollably blinks whenever they start recording. Imagine you're networking at a business event, and like any other business event, this guy walks up to introduce himself and spark a conversation. He is well dressed, and you can just kind of tell that he's a decent entrepreneur. But you just can't help but notice that he fucking blinks every 2 seconds. And as soon as you notice it, it quickly becomes the only thing that you can focus on. And as soon as you notice it, it quickly becomes the only thing that you can think about. No matter what this dude says, you're just trying to stop focusing on the fact that he is uncontrollably blinking. No matter what this dude is saying, you're just trying to stop focusing on the fact that this dude is uncontrollably blinking. It's the exact same thing for when you record. And if you've never recorded before, then you might be thinking, I wouldn't do that shit. I mean, I'm gonna blink normally whenever I record. I can promise you, with working with a lot of clients, it is more common than you think. I used to be a blinker myself, so just keep it in mind whenever you do record. With that said, am I saying to never blink whenever you're recording? Of course not. If you never blink while you record, then you'll just end up looking like a robot. A good rule of thumb is to always try to blink before you start actually speaking to the camera. These are the 4 most common mistakes that beginners make when recording. Avoid these 4 mistakes and I guarantee that you will come out of the gate strong and record better than 99% of creators. AKA, you'll start recording like a G. And once you start recording videos like a G, well, you'll end up needing some of those videos edited. So with that said, that brings us to our last quick win on this list, caption placement. The easiest editing tip that you or your editor should always stick to is to keep the captions a little bit below your chin. Think about it. If your captions are down here, then you're making your viewer choose between looking at you or your captions. But if you raise your captions to right below your chin, then you give the viewer the ability to look at both. And if at any point it becomes inconvenient for your captions to be there, for example, if there's a graphic or something else that you want to be placed into the focal point of your video, then just remove your captions altogether until the focal point is swapped back onto your captions. This will automatically make your videos much easier to watch and ensure that your recording like a G does not go to waste. So make sure your captions are placed below your chin and you're golden. And that concludes today's list of quick wins. Again, this is just a quick list of things that you can utilize within your content starting today and implement as you move throughout this course. This was not even close to what I'm going to give you in the further modules. This was just the tip of the iceberg. I have so much more in store for you. But before we get there, I mentioned that you have some homework to do. Under this module, there's a Notion page that is titled Quick Wins Worksheet. In this Notion document, there's a loom at the top of the page of me going over what's needed of you and what's expected. Open up that loom, give it a quick watch, and then begin completing your worksheet. Again, this will not be a normal course. I will give you the best materials in the world to build your bridge, but it is up to you to take these materials and build your bridge from where you are to where you want to be. Now, this worksheet is the first wood plank that you need to lay. So with that said, you have some building to do, and I have some cool shit to give you. So let's move into the rest of foundations that will not only help you create a memorable personal brand, but more importantly, a personal brand that people want to buy from. I'll see you in the next one.